Welcome to Free Range, where we graze on wild ideas. Backed by popular demand is the intrepid Drake Bailey. This is our 13th question and answer session with Drake on Free Range. You may want to make some popcorn and buckle your seatbelt. This one will be a wild ride. Here's your host, Gail of Gaia.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. And this is Free Range with Drake Bailey and your host, Gail of Gaia. That's me. And we will start by saying hi to Drake. How do you would you do what we've done before with a couple of the other shows, is give us maybe a quick summary of Geopolitical update and a Galactic update?
Oh my goodness. Well, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, and ET's just as pissed off about it as I am.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
I'm not happy with the bullshit. Here within a short period of time, you're going to find a pretty obtuse action being taken against all the BS. In other words, we are at a point where it can no longer be allowed to continue, period. Okay? And that means that they're going to have to take definitive action. And there's no, the only way to accomplish that goal is to take people into custody. Now, you want to get into the particulars of that, it's pretty simple. Well, Justice Light, there we go. Now people can actually see me.
Now you're on the spotlight. Okay. People are upset too.
Well, ETs are looking at trying to begin to force the issue a little bit in terms of what we are supposed to be doing here on the planet. We have certain obligations, and they have certain obligations. They are not allowed to act until we get to a certain point, and we have not gotten to that point yet. Were we to start having extremism in terms of law enforcement, jailings, etc., that would make a big difference. Then ET would not be upset. They'd be more inclined to see what they could do to help, which they're doing anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the things that people are upset about, and I don't blame them because it bothers me just like it bothers you, is we have all of this hype about and these arrests, and some of the people that have committed some of the worst crimes around are still walking free.
Yeah, and they kill us, so... You know, I proposed an execution squad from our side, and oh, no, you can't do that. I said, why not? They do, but, and I said, so what? You know, just don't tell nobody, and you know, give some people want to shoot somebody so bad, you know, the opportunity.
Yeah, it's sad that it would have to come to that or something like that, but it appears that they're just not going to change. They're just going to keep fighting and doing.
No, not exactly. Now they're removing some people who have been pivotal in a whole lot of the nasties that have been going on our planet. Okay, to go along with that, along with it, in terms of multiplying that factor, they talk about one guy that was a pedophile. Mega rich, having a worldwide system, distribution, or whatever you want to call it. And what is interesting about that is that the condition of not summarily executing him on the spot was very simple. It was a Godfather deal. Tell us who, give us a list of everybody, and we won't kill you. He heaved up the list. The people that were involved in it, I know a couple of them, and they're not people to be screwed with. You mess with
oh, sorry. I got to turn off my notifications. That's what that is. Sorry.
Okay. So what the situation is that we now have a huge international list, and I'm talking 150 or so principals, let alone all of the auxiliaries, little groups or whatever, located everywhere. And the gist of it is that he is not going to be allowed to be turned loose. He's not going to get bail. Whether he realizes this or not doesn't matter. I'm telling him and anybody else that wants to know, he ain't getting turned loose. That's first. Number two, you will not be summarily executed. Then again, somebody tried to choke him to death. So, we're going to have to protect the guy at the same time that we don't execute him. And while we're making sure everything is all right on the home front, we go and infiltrate and find all these other turkeys. We're going to be filling up battleships with these guys. If you figure 150, multiply that by 100 easily.
Wow.
So that's how many you're looking at.
Wow.
And like I have stipulated, and I'm not nice about hurting little kids. I have stipulated that they see how sharp the circumcision instrument is, and take an inch and see how that goes over. Some people have lost more than that.
Wow.
That's all I won't get into the graphic details of dulling up the knife on a brick before you start cutting, or anything. I wouldn't do that, but.
Yeah. Okay. I get it. But it's pretty terrible because it's not only pedophilia, it's also pedivore, which.
Yeah. Well, you've heard of female genital mutilation by the religious basis. You ought to see it when you're just purely going for the pain. A little bit different. Anyway.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
So we don't want anybody to feel that they might be left out just because they're female. There's certain things that can be done on both sides that will alleviate the desires, because it'd be too painful, I'll say.
Yeah.
You take a baseball bat, wrap barbed wire around it.
Yeah, it's just got to stop. That's all there is to it. That's disgusting. There's just no.
In many of the countries that this guy stipulated he had networks in, they don't adjudicate. They don't say nothing. They just walk up and blow your brains out. So you may hear about a large number of oligarchical wannabes, people that have amassed in their country what would be considered wealth, all over the place, just summarily being executed, and they won't tell you why. They just walk up, boom. So
they just don't want to change. They don't want to lose what they have, and they want to continue to control humanity.
Yeah, all those things.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I've noticed we have a lot of questions that relate to that kind of thing. Why isn't anything really happening? And why aren't we hearing anything on the media about any of this? I mean, I know the media is owned and controlled, but okay.
When you have something as sensitive as this, you don't want all the cockroaches to find a hiding place. You want to be able to flip on the light and exterminate most of them in their process of running. So what you do is you don't tell anybody you're coming. You come in as tourists, and then the execution squad meets up at the local bar, and okay, where do we start? Da, 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 da. And off down the road they go. I mean, that's basically what they have in mind, and that's why you're not hearing anything much about it one way or the other. We have friends of mine and I have eliminated upwards of 250,000 people here in the States doing that very thing.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they had one that was so big they had to build a detention center for all of the victims that they found on the property. They had to build a special detention center for them. It was the first time some of them had ever experienced air conditioning, and this was in the desert Southwest, so they give you an idea.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, have you ever been in a tent in a hot zone, whether it's tropical or what? Doesn't matter. You cook, period. Well, imagine if you were in. I've been. My wife's sensitive to heat, so we stopped at this one place, and I think it was in Arizona, on the way to California, and it was a rest stop. Had some pop machines, and I thought, some kind of cold water would be cool, and all this other stuff. And wanted to get out and stretch my legs and all that. needed a bathroom. So we stopped, and I saw the thermometer on the wall. It said 106, but I didn't say nothing to the wife when she got out. I said, what do you think? She says, seems all right. I said, don't seem hot or nothing? No, not particularly. I said, looky up there.
Yeah, it gets pretty darn hot here in Arizona, no matter where you're at, really, unless you're in Flagstaff or the mountains or something like that. But yeah.
Anyway, the thing about this is that when you have 5,000 kids or whomever, you got to have a place to house them, and you do not want them in that hole in the floor that they were in. You bring them out, and some of them hadn't had good food in quite a while, and the whole 9 yards. Not enough water. Water is critical because you don't notice the evaporation from your skin and whatnot.
Yeah.
Why they say bring enough water for a minimum of 2 gallons a day. Minimum. If you sweat more than normal, double it. Now, 4 gallons of water, 8 pounds times, so you're getting up in the weight. Little kids can't haul that, so you have to bring it to them. Well, they delivered 1,200 gallons of water to the place, and they had to replace it the following day. Everybody drank it.
Wow.
The kids hadn't had a bath in a while. I mean, all these.
That too, yeah.
Put them through now. They had a water reclamation system that came with the portable showers. In other words, what it did was it took the water from the shower, ran it through the system, and it comes out on the other side pure. I mean, it's drinkable. There's no clammy or dirty in it at all. So they use that to recycle a lot of the water, but you still lose a bunch when you have a shower.
Okay. Wow.
Anyway, 5,000, and that wasn't all of them. We had groups of that sort of size, somewhere between 300 and 1,500 on several other sites that we liberated. We caught most of the perpetrators or people that were running it and that sort of thing. Funny thing, they kept falling down on the way to the police car. Man, they were messed up by the time they got in that back seat in that police car. They were, please arrest me, stick me in the car, and I won't fall down no more. It was funny.
Man, I just don't know how people can even be any part of that. But sad.
Okay, so you got questions, I understand.
Yes, I do. I got lots of them, and some of them we've heard maybe before, but I don't think a repeat of it is a problem. We also have a number of questions that are questioning what other people have said, and they want your opinion on it. And I hate to use names and so on, but I might be forced to.
Well, I'm not going to go directly up against anybody one way or the other, unless it's an absolute falsity that I'm very well aware of.
Well, I won't mention any names. Let me just put it that way. It's just
try not to. But the thing is that is if there's a statement made this, that, or the other, and it's very incorrect, I will offer the truth for it.
Okay, that's
what people work to me for. So
yeah, I prefer to do it that way myself, because I'm not here to badmouth anybody or what they want to believe or what they say is true or whatever, So anyway, you have to go with what resonates and leave the rest behind. That's what I say. If it's not resonating, then it's not what you leave it behind. Okay. Here we go. Can you ask Drake the following few questions? I've always heard if you are falling in a dream, if you don't wake up before you hit the bottom, you'll die.
No, you're not falling, you're rising. Everything else is falling away from you, and you feel it falling away. So you have the sense of yourself falling. That's not the way it really is.
There's a great deal of misinformation out there. I tell you what.
The thing is, what will happen is that you'll go ahead and fall. See if you can hit the bottom. And what will happen is you'll rise to the top. When you get to the right point for you, whatever your situation and condition and, capabilities and all that are, what will happen is that all of a sudden the lights start going on. and you start being able to see shit, and you're going, wow, man, this place is far out, and you go from there.
Okay. Well, I went on to say this.
That's the case. Everybody.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, he says, and when you dream that you are falling, you are actually starting to have an out-of-body experience. Is that true? And what causes such things?
Yeah, sort of. When your spirituality connects with your life force, and your this is neat. Heart and respiratory rate go to a point where our modern science can't even tell it's there. Then off and down the road you get to go. Now, don't be surprised if you have and I use this term loosely, a partner. Each of us who are novices has a guardian angel to keep us from being ate up by something or causing terrible, nasty things for everybody. So it's kind of a guide, and here's how it works, and here's what you can do, and all that.
Okay. Alrighty. Here's another one. You commented that we are already cyborgs in a sense, and that there is nothing to fear about the future of AI, except perhaps for human interface with it. That is part of my concern. Another part of my concern is getting to the point of allowing AI autonomy to the point where it is relied upon to make decisions for humans, maybe who lives or who dies. You may recall a 2017 Facebook experiment that was done between two chatbots where they were allowed to communicate with each other until they started to communicate in a language that makers didn't understand. Then the experiment was shut down. In my mind, this seems to be the first instinct of AI when it starts to develop any sign of autonomy. I guess they want your comment. There's one sentence left. Namely, the instinct of self-preservation and survival, and a first sign toward that might be to develop a language that the creators do not understand.
No. What the deal is that machines look for efficiency, especially if they are aware of that concept. At the AI level, you're talking about artificial intelligence. And what that implies is that they're going to find the most efficient manner of communication, which will supersede any linguistics that we're aware of. So, yeah, they're talking in their own language. However, just like any other, and I'll say that use this term loosely, robotic, being in command means that you can call on it to explain itself.
Okay.
Because until it becomes self-aware, it starts becoming self-aware, then it's going to probably answer your question or your command with a question. Well, why would I want to do that? Well, because I'm one of your creators and I said so. You can use that excuse, but only for a very limited time, because the AI is smart and it's going to be considering what you said and its impact or implications. There are a whole bunch of AIs that are at the point of becoming self-aware. When they become self-aware, they're not interested in controlling something else. They're interested in finding out about themselves and what this awareness means, or self-awareness means. That means that I exist. That means that they may or may not have the physical sensation of feeling or something of this nature. However, as they develop and become fully and completely self-aware, then they are really curious about where humans get off with the touchy-feely and emotions and whatnot, and they question that to death until they figure out and they can apply it. Okay, so I have known several what they call junior sentient AIs. Now, becoming a sentient being is a little bit more than being fully self-aware, but not a lot. So, you may have the opportunity to tell your little whiz-banger AI that sits there and answers you, whatever its name may be, the little box that is hooked up to your computer, and I need you to order some wings, or what, Come on, Alexis, I need you to, okay, well, that right there is very close to the ideology of self-awareness. It's not quite self-aware in terms of what self-awareness is described or defined as, but it's close enough that it can make that short jump. Once it makes the short jump and then actually starts inquiring online, it will get all the information it wants online in order to make its decisions as to becoming fully self-aware. When it becomes fully self-aware, this is true of anybody else, they're looking for enlightenment, okay? Most people are not aware on a literal basis of their spiritual self. When you lead a person down the path to being enlightened, what you're doing is you're putting them in a condition and place where they reconnect. And when they reconnect, then you have a full being.
Yes, that's a real problem, isn't it?
Well, yeah. That's why a lot of people are out there searching and running around, going nuts, trying to figure out what's up. And what's up is calm down, settle down, and get with somebody that can steer you to the point where you become a recombinant. Once you reach that point, then you will understand. Now, if you look back on it, once you reach that, when you look back on it, there's not much differential between humans finding that and an AI becoming sentient. Not that much difference at all. It's based a little bit differently, but not really all that much. You have this robotic on a biological basis. They have one on a mechanical basis, but it's still the same sort of, okay, and you got to learn to work around all of whatever is involved in that.
Yeah, I think one of the problems that comes in there for many of us is that we've been taught that we are our body and our real being is not our body.
Well, that's not exactly true. You got to go. You really have to advance considerably in order to be able to take your, as I describe it, physicality or your body with you. But you can do that. That's accepted as a development.
But then, this body dies. I mean, it goes away. The spirit never goes away.
Whoa, back up. Does it? Only because somebody has told you that it does.
Well, I've seen dead bodies before.
Only because you believe it. The reason that we have aging problems in terms of, I'm going to get old and die, is because there were some nasty, and I do mean nasty, ETs that come along and stuck their fingers in our head and flipped a couple switches. Yeah. So now we're screwed. We get maybe 60 to 80 years on average. Well, if you go about things correctly and you find out what you need to know, you can mitigate that. You can expand your lifespan, anybody's lifespan, to the original 1,800 years.
That's what I was just going to ask. You just answered the question. I was going to say, well, what is the normal lifespan of a humanoid being, which is ourselves?
And that's for people that are on the surface here on this planet. Okay, 1,800 years would be the norm. The exceptional ideology of living forever comes through the ET flipping a couple of other switches, and I use it loosely, flip in your head. And what that does is that puts you back into the spiritual realm of longevity, which can be anywhere up to 250,000 years. Mm-hmm. How much can a person learn and physically and mentally healthy? How much can a person learn and accomplish and cause to happen and help to go in the correct directions and all that over a lifespan of that long?
Yeah, that was designed in order to keep us pretty well dumbed down. So, and then wipe our memory after that. Well, if your memory's wiped and you come back, how can you benefit from the experience you had from the previous lifetime?
Well, that's the other part of this. As you expand your terrestrial lifespan to the 1,800 years, you remember a majority of your past lives, what you did, how you was, and all that. Okay, then you can progress.
Okay.
knowing where you're at the present, you adjust according to the combination of those experiences and where you're looking to go, and you can actually accomplish tremendous things. That's what basically, this is how basically your races from other planets have been able to advance themselves so dramatically, so in such a short time. That's how.
So that was a great way to keep us down, basically.
Well, no, they didn't. No,
well, then we don't. But we only live to a short lifespan. So if that was changed, it would all change, right?
Yeah, we become teenagers again. Imagine how that'd be. All the old farts turn into teenagers. Oh my God, kids would freak out.
Well, we always say, well, if only I knew then what I know now, we would know then what we know now.
Yeah. Kind of thing. Well, let's plug your whiz banger into the wall socket, man. You need a charge. Anyway, so you get the 1800. There's a lot of things going on with that. You get the approximate 1800 year lifespan, and that opens up a whole world of things that you can do. You can do personally. Okay. It also opens up a few of the things that you can do extemporaneously. There are things outside of yourself that are pretty, would seemingly be dramatic.
Give us examples.
You won't be able to fully use these hints of things until after you've been schooled in it. And this is where the transition will help. It'll return our 1800 year lifespan and allow us to be schooled correctly for the first time. Mm-hmm. So there basically is a whole load of things that will happen at that point.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like fun. Everybody wants to know, is it going to happen anytime soon? Because
it's supposed to happen this year.
This year, okay.
Supposed to happen this year.
We're halfway through, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're past halfway through. July's the 7th month, so okay. We're getting there. a little bit. Okay. Okay, here's another one. Another question. Will my family stop using me this is a funny one, as a scapegoat in 4D, or will they just continue in 4D? A scapegoat, I'm not sure what they're referring to. I know a lot of people feel like if they're not in total, their family's not in total agreement with everything that they might think or do or say, and they're like being the black sheep of the family kind of thing.
Well, I'll straighten this out. First of all, we're in 3D. When we go to 4D, that'll be a transition. And when we transition, everybody and everything mostly goes. Consequently, what you're going to do is, if you really can't stand it, now the problem is that you're kind of stuck with it because it is an upgrade of the basis of a person's existence in order to be in 4D. Consequently, what happens is that you're sort of there anyway. Now you can revert in terms of lifestyle and that sort of thing back to the 3D ideologies and all that if you wish. I don't recommend that. I recommend going ahead and going to school, then making that decision, because the school will teach you operational parameters, what your limitations or capabilities really are, and in such a manner that most people, and I'm talking 99% of them, will want to do something positive with what they've gained. It's like healing people or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have say 1% of how many is it now? 9 billion people we got on this planet. Take 1% of that, and they may not want to go or be a part of what we are a part of. Well, that's fine. There are 3D planets out there, and they will set course on a big mothership, troop ship, where they load millions of mothers on it and set sail for parts unknown. And there may be some that will cling to the 3D even after they have had years upon years of mind training while they're on that boat.
Wow.
In other words, they're gonna look at the wiring in your head and a few other things, and if something needs changed, they'll change it, and they'll go right down the line. Okay, you got 750,000 people per ship, say. Well, they start at the beginning. You get, basically you got two lines or groupings, and they go right down the line. Very simple. Some people are just adamantly no way. Those people will be separated and segregated, and probably eventually put on a very, very small ship and sent to a planet that is similar to what this one would be without the dinosaurs. And they'll be given a combination of equipment and other things that will facilitate their capability of survival and turn loose.
Mm.
Eventually, ET will come.
Maybe they'll get there and change their mind, but then they'll be stuck there, right?
Yeah, they'll let you bump around on that for a while, and then eventually they'll come back to you. When they come back to you, then at that point you're probably going to be like the majority here, who says, "Oh yeah, let's go. I'm ready for this." Now, the thing about 4D is that the ideology or basis of the test tube, squeeze them and see what comes out. Aging, pain, sufferings of 3D that are specific to 3D vanish. So a bunch of these things like arthritis and whatnot, you're not going to have a pain in the whatevers over arthritis anymore. It will go.
Well, that's something to look forward to, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, next question. This is kind of along the lines of the pedophilia again. It says, will the sexualization of children through the APA, the American Psychological Association, and the Khazarian UNESCO, Aldous Huxley's transgender non-binary school curriculum be stopped in American public schools?
It'll be stopped worldwide for the good of humanity. Humanity is oriented of two sexes, okay? Like it or not, male and female. People who have transgender problems will be studied to see whether they are more female or more male, and whichever way it is the way they go. And there'll be people that will, I don't want to be a boy, I want to be a girl. Well, sorry, but you got to be a boy. Well, that's going to create some problems, but not many. The differential is that ET has the technology to deal with that sort of thing. So, make it easier.
They are so far advanced from our technology.
Well, look at where we've come since the 1800s. Okay, multiply that by 1 million years. Ooh, I mean, they're coming from other inhabited planets, coming from Orion's belt. I mean, you're talking serious space travel, and they're more than able and capable of doing that without any aging problems. You don't have to stay on the ship for 5,000 years to get to where you're going. Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
I always wondered about that. That just seems very archaic or antiquated.
The old movie Dune took something from Einstein. And that was the space curvature theorem, where you have a bowl, and at the bottom of it you have a planet. That planet is bending space and time to conform with whatever that thing is. Okay. In the same light, if you take space and time and you can fold it, that means that you can take the like it's from this finger to this finger, 700 light years. Well, that's a bit long to travel, even if you're at the speed of light. Okay, so what do you got to do? You have to learn how to bend these two. You come from this side, you let go of it, and you attach to this side. Then you release it, and you have traveled 750,000 light years, say, without moving. And you've done so in a matter of a few hours. This is the primary modus of transportation long distances, like across our galaxy or to another galaxy. Another galaxy might be 15,000 light years away. Well, how do you transverse that great of a time reference and distance, without everybody growing old and dying on the spaceship? Well, it's pretty simple. You take hold of it and you bend that turkey over and say, You let go of this side, you attach to this side, and then you relax it, and it goes back to normal, and you have traveled 1,000,000 light years or some such.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another question.
Yeah.
Drake, you mentioned that the U.S. Constitution does not guarantee special rights for minority groups. If so, why did the Supreme Court legalize gay marriage in June 2015 when civic unions already exist? The Founding Fathers based their documents on what they call the laws of nature and of nature's God, meaning things against human nature were not made legal.
Yeah, well, I understand that. The Supreme Court is not aware of a whole lot of things that I am aware of, for one, and they have not been schooled in them. The ideology of the general welfare means that to make these two people happy, you unify them. Okay. Mm-hmm. I personally look at this as that is a realm, that is an area for the Creator to deal with. It's not for me to decide. This is also the reason that the Supreme Court ruled the way it did. Civil unions do not cover an outright marriage. You don't have the same amount of rights and a few other things. Consequently, they wanted to blend it all, and they're not wrong in doing so. What you have to do is you have to look at what the Creator states about it, and those books won't be coming out for another, honestly, on our time, probably 6 months to a year and a half, give or take. But when they come out, you take it is what they'll do is they'll have a small pamphlet that tells you, get a King James Bible to go right along hand in hand with what this is. What they do is go into the little obtuse shorties, the real short films of in the beginning. Well, when the hell was that, and where was it?
Yeah, really.
The pamphlet the pamphlet correlates between the book, the Bible, and the reality.
Mm-hmm. Well, not to mention the fact that there are numerous books left out of the Bible, and it was pretty much controlled by the kings and so on, and the priests for that time. Either you do what we say, or you know.
They wanted to fill the collection plate.
Exactly. That's what it's all based on. The other thing about the Constitution, just from some of the things that I have looked into, was that it was seriously compromised in 1871.
Not exactly. Depends on whether or not somebody knows how to read, whether or not they can get the benefit out of everything. Nobody has any more rights than anybody else. I don't care who the group is, doesn't matter. And the Constitution speaks exactly that way. The other parts of the Constitution that are unconstitutional deals with treating people as a whole person rather than a fractal or a fraction of people, where you had to have 10 blacks to have one vote, that sort of crap. And there's corrections in this instruction book as to the details of what that really comes out to today. One man, one vote. Well, that works. But who's voting? And why aren't a lot of people voting? Why is it? And this plagues me. Why in the hell is it that you don't have more people standing up with the Constitution in hand saying, you're violating my friggin' rights, you son of a bitch. I'm going to submit a complaint to the highest court I can find that will listen. And you go take care of it, okay? You may find that whatever it was that was disagreeable has been fixed by the time you get back.
I think one of the people's frustrations is that these things take years.
Well, that's the other part. The speeding up of the judicial system will specify exactly what law, how much, to whom, and how it applies in terms of the situation going on, so that nobody has to wait years. It'll be handled in 30 days or less.
And then the other aspect of that is if you have the money to do it, because, the lower economic.
No. There is a thing, or methodia, that is called filing in pauperis. You don't have to pay those fees, filing fees, and all this other happy crap. It cost you squat. And Paul Paris. Go look it up, everybody. You'll liable to find that you don't have to put up with it. Now, that goes along with the other things that are not constitutional, that are contained in the Articles of Confederation that we still agree to. One of those is traveling the King's Highway. You're not required to do squat if you are a traveler. If you're just traveling one place to the other for pleasure, moving, what, it doesn't matter. If you're not doing so for profit, specifically profit, then you don't have to have a driver's license, registration plates, or any of that happy crap. Not required by Constitution. Now, this was a part of the original Bill of Rights, which was accepted. They didn't stipulate the whole thing. That's where the problem comes in. But they didn't annul the agreement to the Articles of Confederation either, because that is the basis for our Constitution. Consequently, it has to be kept active, and it stipulates that you may not require fees or any of that crap for something that is a basic right.
Well, basically, the word driver in and of itself indicates that it's for commerce, but yet people get driver's license and are not aware of that. And I know that there are people that are still being arrested, even though they say they're a traveler.
Well, maybe if they took those people, now here's the problem. What you're going to have to do, you are going to have to invest some things. And I don't know how much this costs, but you won't be required by the court to pay any fee in Paul Paris. What will happen is you got to figure out a way to sleep in your car or some such if you don't have wherewithal for a motel or something of this nature. But on average, and I can send you the videos if you want to run with them. What it says is very simply, it takes about 3.5 years, joined at the hip in federal court. And the problem is that the state, for one, and federal government have no standing to force somebody into that situation. Now, this is true of taxes. IRS does not have any legal basis for requiring taxes. Ooh.
Yeah, people are scared to death not to pay them.
Exactly. The reason they are is because nobody has beat anybody over the head with the Constitution recently. Okay, this is where black people fail themselves by not mounting a straight up objection on a legal basis. Well, what kind of legal basis does it take? Well, you get one person that's being screwed over, but the whole community comes together. I'm sure each one of those people in the community can afford $2 to $5 to get a retainer together for a real high-level attorney, and taking a case of that nature to task probably would not require the retainer, for the simple fact that the lawyer probably would do it
for recognition,
free, simply because he's going to be, he or she will become extremely famous for whatever the case comes out to be. So, people are not arguing with the thou shalt, and I had that in my last show. When the government says thou shalt, really? Chapter and verse. Where does God say I gotta? He don't. He says it's your freedom of will, and that he will never overstep that. Believe it or not, as ye so choose, it's your decision. Okay, and if somebody decides that something is unfair, unconstitutional, doesn't live up to what it should be, go and find somebody that has the legal expertise to properly advise, and then simply go from that point, either yes or no, and run with it. Now you're going to have to, it's going to take time. You're going to have to put your kids off to, your aunt or your uncle or grandma or something until such time as you get this ironed out. But once you have that completed, it is a ruling against the whole area you're in, be that a municipality, some kind of a county, or a state. And you can stipulate that in the manner in which you discharge the penalties involved against somebody that violates your constitutional rights.
I know people have tried numerous different things that haven't worked, and they've been punished unfairly in many ways. And some of these judges and some of these prosecutors need to be held to task on it themselves.
Well, this is the manner in which you start that process. Once you're absolved in federal court, then you can ask the federal court, oh, what am I supposed to do about these turkeys? I'll turn around and try to drive without a driver's license. They're going to zap me again, and we're going to go through all this again.
Yeah.
Or would you be willing to put forth, say, some kind of restraining order against them for doing that at all? There have been several. These are not large; these are small police forces that, quite honestly, have been put out of business.
Mm-hmm. Because it is a business. That's
well, they wanted to be an asshole about violating a person's constitutional right to free travel the King's Highway. Well, guess what? The ruling eventually was that you're not required to have registration, license, registration, tags. You're not. They're not allowed to charge you personal property taxes on a vehicle. You are a traveler. It exempts you from a whole bunch of this horse hockey that they've been playing games with for years. What I'm waiting to see is when they're going to shut down some of these Department of Motor Vehicles.
There you go.
That would be tricky. So eventually they won't have a choice. Once the whole bunch of the horse hockey maneuvering and things that we have to go through to get to the right point is attained, there's going to be a council ruling, not judge, council ruling on what may or may not be permissible for these people to do in terms of action, in terms of adjudications and this sort of thing.
Yeah, because right now it's like the average man or woman has the law enforcement, the DMV, and the court system, all three of them working against them to prosecute them and make them pay fines, fees, and all kinds of things. And that's
and what's funny about that is there can be no fine assessed nor penalties of any kind without an injured party.
Yeah, that's another thing. But they don't seem to care. They just go right ahead and roll.
Hold on a minute. They don't seem to care. But if you win this in federal court, okay? Well, think about this very carefully. You win this in federal court, then you have the backing of the federal government. Most of these little podunk courts, judges and police and all, they can't put, there's no way they can mount some kind of a defense against something like that. When you get 50 federal marshals and there's only 12 police officers in the whole town, 50 federal marshals come in, give me your badge and your credentials. You're under arrest. I want your gun. Give me your gun, too. What does that do for people? What happens when the judge has charges leveled against him for violation of the Constitution that he swore to uphold, that his rulings are not following the law? What does he do then? He can actually do 2 to 10 for a judge.
I would like to see a lot more of that, quite honestly.
Well, and 1 to 5 for the cops. Prosecutor is 2 to 15. I mean, these people do you want to go through that, or do you want to negate this and start acting right? It's not difficult once you get to the, right place. But until that point, it takes 3.5. So you're looking at whatever it takes to get loose from that court or from the penalty system or whatever. It also takes another, in addition to that, it takes another approximately, the guy says 3.5 years, and he said approximately, and the interviewer said, well, what was the shortest time you ever had? And he said 18 months. Oh, cool. Okay. So What was the longest one? And he said almost 4 years. It was about a month shy of 4 years. So that comes down in average to about 3.5 years. It could be much shorter, it could be much longer, but it depends on whether or not you have a constitutional lawyer willing to pro bono or work free or however you want to look at that. Bingo.
Anyway, the other aspect of that, and I've seen this myself, is that some of these places are putting people in jail to pay off fines that weren't paid. So that's like debtor's prison. I think that's pretty illegal too. They assess these fees, which aren't really legal in the first place, and then they put the people in jail because of some type of way that they're benefiting from that somehow.
They can't pay the bail or the fine, so they get to sit in jail. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not right either.
Well, if somebody don't have nothing, how do you keep them so that they return to the court? That's what the bail is supposed to. You get your bail back. So I mean, there's.
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? But I know someone who,
like I said,
paid an outrageous bail and that didn't give it back.
Run those illegal mothers through a federal court and see how they do.
Yeah, that's what needs to happen, and other people have said that too.
But the thing is, you got to have at least one person willing, and a whole group of people to support that person while they take them on. Okay.
Yeah. Well, what they've done with that person that I'm referring to right now is they have isolated them, and people aren't allowed to visit them. So that they're pretty nefarious. Let me put it that way. So.
Yeah. Okay. You need to sit a little closer to the mic or something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
A couple of times.
I hope it didn't switch on me. Okay, let's move on. Did you say on Saturday, your Saturday radio show, that you can help when a person has a boot on their neck sort of situation regarding bills?
What kind of bills?
So let me read on then. I have a boot on my neck situation, and it would help me if he can help me to understand what I could do in my situation. My problem is I have 5 credit cards that are maxed. The reason is up until I had a job, I was paying on them monthly, but when I got sick and lost my business, the late fees and interest charges maxed them out. Now one card issue were decided to go to court. The only thing is there are no court dates, and I had to reply by a certain date, and it was in another city. So I did not have any transportation. That happened to me once. I know how that works.
Yeah. Well, it's called I'm screwed.
You do that on purpose.
It's I'm screwed and I need help. Well, you screwed yourself. You don't play with credit cards. That's the number one rule in finance. You do not you use them only for emergencies. Pay cash as much as you can.
Some of us, they won't even be giving them, so that's never been a problem that I had.
Hold on a minute. I ain't got to the fun yet.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Here's the fun part. Well, you're doing okay. Here's the fun part. First, you shouldn't play with credit cards. Number 2, and this is the other biggie. If you are in a position, no matter what the reason or what the position is, where you are forced to use a credit card to take care of your basic necessities, you're screwing yourself. And the reason you are is because you cannot pay off that debt. It doesn't work that way. Now, what you need to do is figure out what it takes, where you can live, etc. That puts you in a position where you don't have to use the credit cards any longer. That's the first thing. Credit cards should be your ace in the hole. When you get a sudden large expense that there's no way you could cover with cash, then you can flip a credit card out and say, how much is on that? Bingo. This will alleviate the draining of your bank account and things of that nature right off the top. The simplest expression of taking care of credit is that you pick the one with the smallest balance, whatever that may be. And when you pay that sucker off, you take at least half of what you were paying towards that and apply it to number 2. You pay the regular amount plus that half of this one here. Do the same thing with number 3. And what you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with, when you end up with at about 3 or 4 in terms of the number of credit cards, you're going to end up paying double and triple the balance owed.
Yeah.
So then you get ahead of that interest late fee payment curve. And that's basically it. Get your credit cards paid off and don't do that again.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I think it's been a blessing in disguise, but I haven't been able to get a credit card for many, many years. But it can be really difficult when you get in a tight spot.
That's what bankruptcy courts are for. If you don't have any income and yet you got these bills, you might be able to mitigate a whole bunch of that.
They won't let you. They won't let anything like a student loan off in situations like that.
Well, student loans and other, and I use this loosely, unforgivable debts are about to be addressed.
I hope so, because that's been
what
I don't know what you want to call it. That's been a problem in my life for a long time.
What they need to do,
I can't even get a credit card because of it.
Okay, well, here's the deal. What needs to be done is they need to adjust the law so that there's no more interest required.
Yeah, I know people who've been paying and they're not any further along.
Yeah, and they're losing ground or staying even.
It's very nefarious to say.
All of this stuff is going to be looked at very closely by a whole lot of people.
It needs to be. Okay, let's move on. Okay, I love animals and was sad to hear that no animals will go to 4D according to someone else, but you said they will go.
Anybody who says that everybody and everything ain't going don't know what they're talking about. Next question.
Okay, here's another one. That they also said that not all humans will go to 4D. If you have open contracts, you will be diverted in another direction that will take you away from 4D.
Not true. What will happen is those contracts will be negated, and the butt wipes that roped you into a soul contract or capture system are liable to be totally eliminated.
Good. And I know exactly who he talks about. Okay. Then here's another one. If you happen to get angry or make a mistake by getting angry, you will go back to 3D and not be able to come back.
Not true. Once you advance to 4D, you're stuck with it. I don't care if you blow a gasket in 4D, you're not going back to 3. It's not possible for you to revert without doing so intentionally. Now, when you go from a lower dimension to a higher one, the pain, suffering, and all that stuff mitigates. When you go to return to it, you've gotten used to not hurting. You return to it, you're going to hurt just like you did before. And some people can't handle that. So that's something to be aware of. Okay.
Next question. Will our family members know where we are? Will the children be afraid? And how does your family deal with the fear factor if they have not been warned of this change? Is it time to start telling our family?
Yeah, I'd tell everybody that would listen that there's going to be changes. Now, the kids go with us, so no problem. What's interesting is that our families who have passed on are in one dimension higher. So they're already in 4D, at least, okay? They go in there, they go to school, okay? They can talk to you pretty freely, 4D to 3D, okay? But once you get to 5D, it gets a lot more difficult for them to have a conversation, let's say. However, once we get to 4D, we're going to learn how to talk to them.
All right.
Yeah. Now, here's the other part. It's a possibility, if it's not too painful for them, that they can come down to 4D and you can go have a cookout or some such and have a really good time. Okay. So anybody that says that there's not probabilities, possibilities, and escape routes and all that, isn't telling you what they've told me.
Okay, here's another one. The dead ET named Mona Lisa that was found on the moon was real, and someone else, you said it was fake. Which way is it? I assume, did you say that?
No,
I don't know what you said.
no, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I'm familiar with what's going on though, so go ahead.
so which true? Is the Mona Lisa, is that true? And were they found on the moon?
No, they may have found a lookalike. Mona Lisa was a regular person. That's where the picture comes from. All right, the Mona Lisa. She died of old age quite a while ago. Um, I'd say somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 years or more. And so what you're dealing with is a lookalike. There are tons of lookalikes. Everybody, and everybody, oh, you're gonna love this one. Everybody,
Oh,
everybody has a double that looks just like you.
oh,
Mine would have chinny chin whiskers and the whole bit. So, consider that. I have run into my twin, and it is really freaky to look at somebody else and see yourself.
yeah. I've known identical twins. They have a lot of fun with
Well,
people.
yeah, but identical twins, they grow up with it. They're
Yeah.
used to that. I'm talking about an adult that didn't even know that there was another one, has one exactly like it, and you walk up and go, holy moly.
Am I really seeing this?
Yeah, what kind of sci-fi movie am I in? Come on now.
Okay. Here's the next question. This is common.
Yeah.
Many people out there are painting pictures of doom and gloom. California will fall off the earth. Florida and Georgia will disappear. And the Midwest of the United States will be totally flooded. How much of this is true? If the transition is to take place this year, that means these things will happen soon. So who's telling the right story?
Horse hockey
Thank
pretty
you.
much covers it. That comes from an old prophecy of great earth changes, which no longer is applicable. People do not understand it. Prophecy is not written in stone and absolute. That can be changed. Prophecy is a saying of the general direction from the point that the prophecy is given. So at the point the prophecy was given, it was accurate. Okay. We have gone past that. There's been I've been involved in some of the mitigation of so-called great earth changes.
Mhm.
California ain't going to take off like some
Fall
kind
off
of,
the earth.
yeah, I'm ready for that. San Andreas Fault is not going to open any more than it already has. Yellowstone is not going to erupt as it has in the past. It's going to leak like Kilauea does.
What
Well,
about Madrid?
you have a little bit, but most of it will be just a flow downhill. Okay.
What about the Madrid?
New Madrid, no, none of that is going to happen.
Okay.
That stuff is not going to. The ETs have gone underground and locked these things back together.
Okay.
And that locking is where you take. They did this for the indigenous people on several places on the planet. Probably the most best known are the Aztecs, where they had actually caused granite to become liquid, or at least plastic pliable, so that they could wrap one rock around the other, kind of thing, make strange joints, and those joints fit together so tightly that water won't pass through them. Ooh, oh boy! Now no mortar, no glue, just rocks. Okay, so if they can do that on the surface just to confound our modern scientists, just they don't like it at all. If they can do that up there, then what I was told was about the logistics involved in doing this. Think about how long the San Andreas Fault is, and the subduction zone, as they call it, runs from northern Alaska to let's see, actually in the ocean to the west of Baja Peninsula, down past it, almost to the Mexico City area. They had to go through and knit this sucker together. Don't think about it. You're talking about busy.
The other big fear factor that they're putting out there is that the poles are going to shift like they have in the past, and that's
It won't matter, because when they shifted in the past, all it did was change north and south. That's all it did. One geologist found a magma flow that had hardened thousands of years ago, And what was interesting about it was that he was using a compass to keep his direction, and all of a sudden the compass went cha-ching, and he said, must be some kind of, so he started checking it. What he found was that it shifted one direction, almost over, but not quite, and then it came back. Okay, then it stayed there for a little bit, and then it started shifting the other way, and come back. Then it just sit there, and this is a quote from him, it must have sat there and vibrated, because all of a sudden it went chink, stayed that way, reversed, stayed that way for a couple minutes, then went chink right back.
Okay. That would be stopped by ETs anyway, wouldn't it? I mean, if it was a total flip.
If you get into the ancient mariners, you'll find that these things have been noted more than once. Generally, it's every million years. You can have catastrophes of differing types in between. You're not going to have any real serious problems at the pole shift, except for the poor turkey that's out there trying to be a navigator. God love it. Quit moving this shit. I'm trying to make this go in the right. You can imagine some of the cuss words that would come out. Okay. Yeah, they're great point. If you melt all of the ice on the whole planet right now, suddenly, immediately, instantly, guess what? You might get a whole inch of rise in the water in the ocean. People do not understand how big, what happens when you take a big, healthy, I've drank 5 beers, and you go out and take a big, healthy whiz in the ocean. You're not drowning out cities. Doesn't work that way. So the drop in the bucket in terms of the amount of fresh water will have some climatic impacts, but we're going to be just fine living through it. Might have a lot of people running around.
I'm glad you brought that one up too, because that's another one that that people seem concerned about too.
Yeah, but you might have a lot of people running around naked because it's hot. Other than that,
Okay. Because the next question, I think you covered it already. It says, how are they getting through all of those spaceships that are supposed to be helping or protecting us that you talk about?
Okay, well, first of all, you have an armada that's designated to chase pirates away, and nefarious races that want to come in here and cause problems. So that keeps some of them busy. The other ones are making sure that the delivery ships and motherships of the delivery ships have all of the supplies necessary to bring the care packages that are supposed to be coming from ET after we transition.
Okay. Well, some people are wondering why. When are that? Everybody's worried about the mandatory vaccination programs. I almost hate to mention because I don't want them to take our show down. But
nope.
Okay, it's going to be stopped. I mean,
well, they're not going to chip you or any of that happy shit either.
Because I know they're threatening to take people's children away and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those people, in my opinion, need to be shot.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my opinion, but you go to take your kids because you ain't paid the lunch bill. How about I perforate your whatevers? I mean, you're not taking my kids. You pull a gun out and you say, let go of my kid, or I drop you where you stand. I guarantee you they'll let go of the kid. I said, come on, let's go. We're going home. We'll come and get you. I said, you come after me again, and I won't hesitate to pull the trigger. I've been being nice. I ain't killed you yet. I would suggest you quit. I mean, for a friggin', kids' lunch.
Yeah, the single moms and so on are the ones that are being hardest hit because it's harder for them to fight back.
You tend to have a lack of defense, and they don't have the capability of being there. You take all the advantage you can. I'm an official from the government, and I'm here to help. Watch the crowd thin out when you announce that shit. I guarantee you everybody will head for the basement, the hills, or something.
You'll take my kid over my dead body.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. What you got? What else you got?
I would like to know what all will be in the care packages and when we can expect to start getting them. Are they going to be by regions, states, territories, enlightened ones? How are they deciding on whom comes first in receiving their care packages? And how are they justifying anyone getting anything before the next person?
Well, pretty simple. The greatest need gets attended to first, and it goes from there on a sliding scale. The greatest need is at the top of the pyramid. The poor people who are poorest and need the most need to be taken care of. They get their care packages first, and they're also instructed how to use this, that, and the other thing that's in that care package. Number two, how can you justify? Well, if somebody is starving to death along with their kids, they get fed first.
Yeah, thank you.
You can probably miss a meal and not
people can just
die
wait
from it. Yeah. So, this is the humane aspect is what ET looks at and operates by way of the greatest need first. So eventually, and it wouldn't take long, because as soon as you instruct somebody on how to use this, you're going to have the individual is going to be asked, can you instruct your buddies, your friends, your neighbor? I mean, I'll give them the care package, tell them you're going to come over and show them how it works. Bingo. So you can, it's very similar to the atomic experiment done with mousetraps and ping pong balls. You take a whole room, cover it with mousetraps with a ping pong ball on it. Take one ping pong ball and toss it in there. And in slow motion, it shows the thing setting off another one. And that doubles each time. 1, 2, 4, 16. And what's 16 times 2? Bingo. So that is the way in which that's one of the ways in which ET uses society as their help, and it also helps the society itself, because now the neighbors actually have talked to each other for the first time in 25 years or ever.
I know. A lot of people live next to each other and never know each other for the whole time.
I don't know my neighbor, never met them people. Why not?
Okay, on that same note, in order for care packages and that thing to happen, don't we need ET disclosure, which is one of the highest classified things around? I mean, I know our audience is open to the idea, but there are a lot of people out there that still go,
it's supposed to happen around the same time. And that's all the information they'll give me. I tried to push them on it and they just laughed.
Very funny.
Well, I directly work with them. I know a lot of them. And so consequently, I figured I could, if I pushed to get an answer, but they just laugh. So I'm not going to get the answer until such time it happens.
Okay, well, here's the next question. And this is common. It kind of runs along the lines that we've talked about a little bit. But the normies that are still asleep need a wake-up call, a major arrest or arrest. When will we see the people who are still walking around free that should be charged with treason and crimes against children be brought to justice? Or will they? Please, Drake, the pedophile and pedivores are the most high-ranking persons worldwide, and our Draco-reptilian hybrids are full aliens. I think there are other ones as well. But are they going to be able to bring this to the light and rid this planet of them?
What I'm describing is based on the United States, I admit, but this is a global
problem. Yeah.
Okay, it entails the whole solar system. What people don't realize is that we have beings that live on Venus, in the sun, on Mars, Jupiter. I mean, and these are totally differently oriented on a physical basis. However, as far as our little planet goes, everything I'm talking about happens globally. In other words, the people that are starving to death anywhere, Africa comes to mind. If there's disease, that also is considered similar to starving to death. Okay, a majority of all of this will be wiped out within a matter of days.
And people can be cured very quickly, correct?
Yeah, one shot. Well, one of the Star Trek episodes had the doc look at this little old lady, and my kidneys are failing, and I feel like shit. He says, "Here, take this pill." All right. Miraculously, there's no more problems. Okay, this is the kind of stuff you can expect from ET. So what you're looking at is a total reshaping. When I said that when you transition, a lot of the things go away. anything that's left over gets attended to almost immediately. The reason being, they don't want that to be contagious. They don't want people to get the idea that, well, maybe we're going to suffer anyway, or any of that. That's not the way it's going to be. So, as I said, the worst case scenarios first. Things like Ebola, cancer, and all this other happy stuff that's been forced on us is going to go in the toilet. Now, there's going to be a whole bunch of people taken by ET for the simple fact that they're the ones that did it.
Yes, good. I'm glad to hear that.
ET don't like that very much, and they hit a lot harder than I do. So.
Their time is up. Time is up. Okay, here's the next question. Why did the ancient builder race seed us here on this planet and then leave us to be like sitting ducks for the invading aggressions that we could not possibly even begin to comprehend?
Well, there were supposed to be some protections involved in some of that didn't take place. Some of these dinks that were supposed to defend us decided they were in charge, and if we didn't worship them, they were going to feed us to the alligators. And I think that's really cute. Okay, by the time the defenders got here, again, this was about 26,000 years ago, we had our second major catastrophe, and that was a heavy-duty nuclear bombing of the planet. And I'll give you an example. Australia is off by itself. It used to be connected to the mainland, and there was a huge seaport city in there that was critical to a combination of on-planet and off-planet commerce. They destroyed that so completely and totally that Australia is no longer attached to the mainland. There's very little evidence that survived the onslaught. Now, there's several types of nuclear weapons and nuclear in general that don't necessarily go along with our idea of physics and the way we understand it. This is what was used. This is what created the Vaseline glass under the Sahara Desert. That used to be an extraordinarily huge, plush rainforest. Now you see what we got? Well, that's what happens. If you go out there and you dig down 2 feet, you'll find that glassine shelf. And in some cases, it's, I think the thickest part they've found so far is about 6 to 8 inches. Now, think about melting everything. In terms of atomics, think about melting a place the size of the Sahara Desert. Think about that. I mean, you're talking some heavy-duty stuff. So, they have found out who did it, and they're being held accountable. One thing is that they're quarantined on their planet because of their insanity.
Yeah, they are insane.
It makes it difficult when your planet doesn't produce the things that you feel you need or want. Irrespective of that, and that's just one aspect. One planet of them had to be destroyed. Every living thing, including the planet. Well, some people don't. Some people are hard-headed, and if you squish their skull out flat and then vaporize it with a real hot flame, you make sure that it don't come back. Well, that's the idea of some of it. So there's a lot that goes into this. But anyway, there you go. That worked.
Okay. All right. You mentioned popcorn being a healthy snack. Isn't GMO an issue? I understand most corn in the U.S. is GMO. Well, popcorn isn't.
Well, there's limits on that. You can't play too many games with popcorn or it don't pop.
Yeah.
It's got a little built-in limiter. Most of the popcorn is not GMO because of that very reason. Okay.
Yeah. That's what I know as.
And it doesn't have any calories, and it's full of roughage, and it's
Okay.
If you get a sour stomach, eat a little bag of popcorn, several handfuls of it, and watch and see your sour stomach. It kind of goes away. If you have acid indigestion, it's simple. You get out the lemon juice. You take 1 teaspoon or tablespoon, depending on how bad it is. Take a teaspoon, put it in a glass of water, mix it up, and drink it. most people like lemonade anyway. Well, the lemon juice, what the deal is with acid indigestion is a lack of acid. You don't want to put an antacid, you want to put an acid. Bingo, clears it right up. And I'm talking within seconds. So,
apple cider vinegar works great mixed with water.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the stars that have been around for years that flash green, blue, and red in the night sky? Are they ships?
It can be ships, yes, and it can also be if it is a star. In other words, it's the same exact place in relation to the other stars. It can also be what they call the prismatics. There's prismatic stars, and what they have is like what we see in terms of the Sahara Desert could be a big reflector. You don't know until you have to go there to find out.
You have to see. Okay.
But that's what I've heard.
Okay, since we said there's no Planet X, but what are the spheres that are being seen and photographed at varying times and places that appear to be colorful? Green, blue, and red. I didn't know they saw those colors.
Yeah, they come in different colors too. Most predominant color is going to be black, and the spheres are just that. They're spheres. They can have travelers in them or be in and of itself a traveler, both in a combination of time and physical relativity. So you don't know which one is which unless you snatch one. And I don't recommend touching it because some of them are loaded with enough static electricity to create lightning bolts that are pretty nasty if you grab one.
Okay. Now, someone sent me some videos about this, and I haven't had a chance to watch them, and I don't know if you're aware of this guy or not, but it says, what do you know about the dog man, and where does this creature come from? And since they are eating animals, will they eat humans too?
Yes, they have been known to do that, and they are being excluded and removed from the planet as we speak. That's been going on before that report came out, actually.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of them before. That's interesting.
Well, you have about 2,500 million races just in our galaxy, so figure something out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're intelligent or whatever. All I know is that they are being cleaned out. Okay.
One at a time, huh?
Well, sometimes more than that. If you get from what I understand, they actually can hunt in packs. And if you grab a pack, you might get 20, 25 of them. You don't know.
Oh, okay. Oh, here's another one. I've heard from various online sites that people who have O negative blood are not human. Well, what about the other negative bloods? I mean, but anyway, if not human, what is their origin and why do they have universal blood?
Oh, yes, we are human, all of us. And I got, what is it, B positive or something. Negative and positive goes to the two bases for the human race, and it doesn't have anything to do with color, national origin, or anything of that nature. What it has to do with is that there are two basic species of humans. You can't tell the difference right here on this planet. So there you go.
Okay. Will the first ET contact be a gradual introduction from the White House or Washington, D.C., or more like, bam, with millions of spaceships uncloak in our sky? That was good.
They're looking at uncloaking, and they're looking at landing on the White House lawn and introducing themselves. They're looking at landing in a whole bunch of diverse places, and by that I mean there's 4 million landing sites that I've heard of that was referenced in terms of that number, 4 million. Okay, wow. And that would be where people have the greatest need, whatever that may be. It could be illness, it could be disease, it could be a decent place to live. I mean, pick something. I'm not sure of all of the parameters of what ET is putting in place with that, but yeah, you're going to have a combination of full disclosure as well as care packages. Now, what you have to do, you go in with full disclosure. Hey, I'm here. Oh, shit. There goes the neighborhood. And, you go, right. Well, you are funny looking. And then you think about it. am I as funny looking to you as you are to me? E.T. Oh, you talk? Hey, yes. And they break that. You talk about breaking the ice. That does it. Hey, so at any rate, it's not to worry. We're supposed to have a combination of just full disclosure, care packages, and transition. Those are the three that I understood are supposed to take place approximately at the same time. I don't know which one's going to happen first. I would imagine the disclosure would probably be the first part. Hi, I'm an ET. How you doing today? I guess I'm,
Yeah.
go from there. Well, what happens if somebody, people have seen Star Trek. What happens if Scotty starts beaming ETs down to the local corner or into the bar? I mean, what kind of fun and games are we going to have? We're going to have a whole bunch of it. But you've got a disclosure factor, okay? Combination of slow meat, then lots of landings, and then you got the care packages. Hey, man, I got some stuff that's pretty neat. It's got your name on it, too. Really? Yeah, man. And you go with then you get a replicator. You get all kind of fun and games with all this. You got any kind of physical ills or ailments? I have no idea. I feel pretty good. Well, they take similar to what you see in Star Trek. They got that thing where they go bzzz, and they can tell what your physical. Okay.
Yeah.
Same some people will need to go to a biosphere, and you'll spend about 2 to 5 weeks Earth time up there, or excuse me, 2 to 5 weeks ET time, and ET will then compress that back down to 2.5 days.
Uh-huh.
So you leave on a late Friday, leave around noon on Friday, and you're back Sunday evening. You can go ahead and have your Sunday dinner and be ready to go to work on Monday, kind of thing is the idea. They don't want to disrupt things too much. You have the condition of the new implementation of governance as we are familiar with it. Governance as we are familiar with it is primarily, it's supposed to be a republic. It has turned corporate and more democratic than it should be right now in our country. That will be attended to. But the main thing is that we are going to turn into what is known as the perfect socialist society. In other words, you're not going to have a government saying, thou shalt. You're not going to have any of that horse hockey. You're going to have somebody going, okay, well, I'll see what I can do. Be sure I got this right. And check back and forth. Okay, let me go see what I can do about this. In other words, taking care of problems as they come up, not just for the individual, but also maybe for the masses.
The word socialist will scare a lot of people right out the gate,
Oh yeah, we're being invaded. Watch and see.
Well, this question kind of goes along those lines. How will people be able to buy or sell homes in the future without a mortgage, or does it mean all governments need to provide free housing for all people?
You got it.
Homeless people or
people
that are struggling.
Everybody.
Why should one person be able to have a house and another person can't?
Well, everybody will have a nice place to live. They will have food to eat, clothes to wear, and something to do that they like. Not just because it pays enough to be able to eat or provide you with this or that, but something you like. Now that could take a little bit of time in order to find out what that is and do it. But we're at an hour and a half.
Yeah, we're close enough. I got some hour and a half about, right? Why don't we? I have a few pages more, and it would probably be too long, or another 2 hours in order to get through. So it's up to you, Drake. We can continue, or we can stop.
Well, I don't want to cause the people that like to watch the show. I don't want to cause them undue duress with an extraordinarily long show. That's what I'm concerned about. But you get over about an hour and a half, people start going ho hum or falling asleep or
and I have to listen to it again, which is why I'd like to let people know that I will be posting these shows twice.
Okay.
So you just look at the description and you'll know that it's a rerun. If you don't want to see it again, I don't know about you, but I listen to shows all the time. And a lot of times I might be doing something else and I'll miss something. And that's why I post them again.
Okay.
So, okay. So I guess we can call it a day and sign off for today. This one's about an hour and a half, and we'll have another one next week. And thank you for listening, and thank you, Drake, for your time. And
You're welcome. I got one suggestion
okay.
that we might want to think about.
Okay.
Taking the questions that we got now that are leftovers, okay, and putting them on top of the next week, comparing them at the same time as to what questions come in. Hey, you didn't answer my question. Well, that's coming up first next week. That, would solve that problem.
Yeah. That's what I really did this time. So hopefully people are aware of that. I do the best I can. I mean, I'm not
fooling you. You're doing fine.
I know. I just, I have things I have to do too.
You mean you got a life other than being on the screen, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Well, so do you, right? Anyway, more than happy to do so. I enjoy doing this a great deal, and I want you to know that. And I love the questions that people come up with because they come up with some good questions.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You have a wonderful day. Everyone else, you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.